I'm going to show you how to design this dog tag, but of course you'll have your own writing in it and your own image. First, we're going to click New Design, and we're going to change the name that Tinkercad gives it by clicking Design, Properties, and putting your first and last name. First, last, dog tag. Save changes. Now we want to change our grid from metric, millimeters, to inches and update it. And we want to snap the grid to 1/16 of an inch increments. Alright, let's go get our shape. Our basic outline is a rectangle, so we'll grab a cube and we're going to change the dimensions of the cube. First, I think it's easier if we get the ruler tool and put it right on the corner there. And now it tells you all the dimensions. That way, all we have to do is click on the numbers twice and change them. I know my keychain is 2 inches long. Your other constraint is 1 1/4, which is 0.25 in decimals wide, 1 1/4. And then my height is going to be 3/16. And to find out what that decimal is, you can do 3 divided by 16 on your calculator, and you'll get 0.1875. We don't need the 5. This is close enough for what our work is. So here we have our basic slab. Alright, so now, let me just pan over here. We need to cut off these corners because dog tags have rounded corners or fillets, and to do that in Tinkercad we need to make a fillet tool by first dragging in a cube and then dragging in a cylinder. You see I made my cube a little smaller. That's because I want this cylinder to be bigger than the cube, because I am going to cut. I'm going to be cutting this radius shape out of the cube. So now to line it up, what you have to do is get the center here on the corner of the rectangle. So I just lowered it for a second so you could see the center of the cylinder, and then you can put it right on the corner of the cube, and then I'm going to bring it back up here so that I cut that shape out of the cube. You make the cylinder a hole, select both objects, and group them. We now have a cutting tool. Well, it will be when I make it a hole. So now when I put this tool on the corners with this shape, I will be subtracting that angle. Now if you notice, if I put this big of a cube on the corner, it's going to take off quite a bit of material. And I think the fillet will be a little too big of a radius. So I'm going to change the overall dimensions of my tool. It's not going to be 1 inch by 1 inch. It'll be 1/2 inch. So I'm going to hold down my shift key, go on to the corner angle, and just make it 1/2 by 1/2 by 1/2. Keep going. There we go. 1/2 by 1/2. Now, when I put this on the corner, it just takes off the sharp part of our dog tag. It makes it a little bit of a radius. See that? Good. So we have to do that 4 times. Let me just pan up here. So what I want to do is copy and paste my tool to all 4 corners. So I click on the tool. I'm going to hold down the Alt key but you can also just copy and paste. If you hold down the Alt key and just pull, it makes a second part. So I have a second tool. Then you just use your arrow keys to line it up again. Let's take an orbit and make sure it looks good. Yeah, it does. Alright, let's go get that one. Alt, hold down the Alt key, pull the cutting tool, click on this arrow to orbit it, and then move with your arrow keys to line up the corner. Good. Let's click Alt again, pull, and we'll just rotate this one and line it up with our arrow keys. I just want to check that everything looks lined up by first panning over to the center and then just orbiting around a little. It's pretty good, I think. You know, to cut, we need to have all the objects selected and then grouped. And you see we have a good outline for our dog tag. So this becomes our slab. Now what we're going to do with this slab is copy it and make it smaller because I want to use it as a cutting tool for removing some of the material in the center of the slab. So click on the slab, Control C is copy, Control V is paste, and we have a clone. This clone needs to be resized in order to leave 1/16 of an inch around our original slab. So that means we have to subtract a 16th here from the top and a 16th from the bottom. Now a 16th plus a 16th is actually an 1/8. So what we're going to do is resize the overall dimensions by subtracting 1/8 of an inch. So if you look on your ruler at 2.0 inches and you subtract 1/8 of an inch from that, you are left with 1 7/8. That is 1.875. You might have to get out your calculator to find out that 7/8 is 875. Enter. Now I have to change the 1 1/4 by subtracting that 1/8 of an inch. So look on your ruler and you see 1.25 is 1 1/4, and we're going to subtract an 1/8 and it becomes 1 1/8 or 1.125. Oops. 125. 1 1/8. Enter. So now this cutout shape should leave me a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. Alright, now what I need to do is make it a hole. It is a hole, I believe. Let's double check. Okay. But we can't really see it because it's the same height as the existing piece here. So what I want to do is pull it up. Oh, I pulled up the outside edges. I want to pull up the inside. Come on. Alright, see? There it is. But to leave a 16th, you see down here, it shows how deep it is in here from the bottom. And we already said 1/16, I don't know if we did say 1/16 is 0.0625 or 0.063 is close enough. So that tells me that there's a 16th left on the bottom of this outside slab, which is what I want. So now what I need to do is group them. Control A, select all. Control G, groups. Boom. And I have the outside shape and the inside shape with the cutout. Good. Next, we need a hole. So we get our hole tool. The best one here would be cylinder. Much too big, right? Let's hold down the Shift key and change the overall size to something that looks good. I think that might be a good size. And look, it's 3/16. So it's the exact size we needed for the overall height of our part. I think that would be a good size hole. Now, the problem is, if you look closely, it's not centered, is it? Let's move it. That might be centered. Might be good enough, but there's a way to tell if it's exactly centered in our part, which is what we want to do. And in order to do that, you need to click on the two objects that you want to center together. So I have, first of all, my cylinder. I'm going to hold the Shift key and select the outside edge as well. So by holding the Shift key, it makes sure that both parts are selected. And up here is the Adjust tool. You click on it and go to Align. And that Align makes spots on the original piece that shows the exact center widthwise and the exact center lengthwise. Now I know if I click on here that it will be aligned. So I was off. It looked good enough, but it wasn't completely aligned. I don't want to click on this one because it will put it directly in the center of our part. And that's not where we want our hole to be. So that looks pretty good. We left some material here. We might be able to just move it a little closer. Let's see how that is. I don't want it to go through the outer edge. Okay, let's move it over there. A little bit closer to this outer edge. That way we have more room for our text and whatever image we want. We're going to push through the bottom of the part. We're going to make that a hole. Select all and group. We have a perfectly centered hole for our dog tag. Good. Now you're ready for text. Whatever text you want to put on there. Within reason, if there's too many letters, it might not print that well. This part looks big here because we're zoomed in, but when we actually print 2 by 1, it's not that big of a piece. So I have my text up here in favorites. You are going to get yours down here in Shape Generators, Tinkercad, pull in some text. It's going to be too big for our part. That's okay, we can resize it. Over here we have the fonts. They give you a few choices. They actually give you quite a few. Let's see what this one is. That's fun. Yeah. That's different. I'll try this one. Text. I'm going to change it to tech. Enter. And then hold my Shift key. Find the corner handle. See it there hidden? And there I have it. Now, since I have about the size I want, and I want them both to be equal, why don't I just copy and paste this and then change the font? That's what I'm going to do. Control C. Actually, it might be too big, right, if I want to put a graphic there. Let's do that. Okay, Control C, Control V. I'm going to pull this one down and name it Ed. Tech Ed. Do you know how much I love Tech Ed? There we go. That'll be interesting to read, won't it? Now, you have a choice. You have to make sure, though, by tilting and everything, that the font and the text is sitting on our part. And it looks like it is. Zoom in. Let's just pan down. Yes, it is. And we don't want it sitting above the part, but you can tell that it's a little bit below. You have an option of actually putting it through the part and making a hole of the font. That was not a wrong thing to do. I'm undoing right now. Wait for it. Right. So I want to click on the tech, make that a hole. And then the ed, make that a hole. Is it through the part? Just double checking it. And now I can select all and group. Control A, group. And I have Tech Ed as holes. Now once you group it, you know you can't move things around. So if you weren't happy with the way this was lined up, you would have to ungroup it. Tinkercad, it's a little hard to read, but that's kind of cool. I like that. Now, my original one had a graphic of a robot here, and that's because I had already searched for that vector art, and I had saved it as an SVG file. That's got to be done prior to pulling it in here under Import. Import is directly under Favorites. So we're going to, since I've already saved that file, I'm going to use it again. So I'm going to import my SVG file. I saved it in Documents. I'm going to look for the robot. Alright, so this is the vector art I found. We use black and white because that works better to change to an SVG file. You have to use a converter, and I can show you how to do that individually if this is what you want to do with your dog tag. So I'm going to open my SVG file that I converted from a JPEG, and it's going to be imported. See it? Here it is, Robot SVG Import. Now, it was 100% and an inch tall, which is way too big for our part, as you can see. But it can very easily be resized by holding the Shift key and pulling the size. And, oh, I just made it super tall. And bringing it close to our part so that when we zoom in, we can see our little robot guy. He's so cute. And I'm going to hold the Shift key again because I don't want to skew him. You know what skew is? It's when you make him wider or taller than he was originally, and you kind of lose the initial shape. I'm going to undo that. I don't want him skewed. I like him just the way he was. So go get my robot. Oh, where is he? I can't see him. Let's see where he went. Ah, he's through the work plane. Let's push him up here so he's not going through the work plane. We don't want him floating. Do you see this blue edge here? That means he's not touching. So I'm going to push him back down a little. Is he coming through the bottom? Yeah, a little bit too much. So I'm just going to go up. You can't have anything on the bottom sticking out of your dog tag, because the 3D printer will put all kinds of material down there, support material, that will really kind of take way too long to print, and then it's more work. You have to scrape it all off. So we just go with the flat bottom. Let's see, how's that? He's not poking through, right? Good. Okay. So there's our robot. Let's make sure he's not too tall. He's not coming up over the lip of our dog tag. I can make him a little bigger if I hold my Shift key. Let's see. And use my arrow key to align him horizontally. Yeah, I want him a little smaller. Shift, shrink, arrow, there we go. And there's our dog tag. Alright, it's not ready to be printed because we have to first of all group all the items. Control A, Control G. And then we have to save it for the 3D printer. And now the 3D printer has a special file it needs to read too. It can't read the file as it is now. Oh, we have to turn off our, dismiss our ruler too. Okay, that's gone. Just click on the X. So we're going to download for 3D printing and create it an STL file to be used by our 3D printers. Mine just got saved here, and I'm going to make sure it's in the folder, and there it is, first last dog tag. And mine went to the downloads folder. Yours will go directly to your Google Drive when you're using the Chromebooks. So I'm going to actually put mine in Documents so that I can send it to the 3D printer and be able to find it again. So there you have it. You just made your very own dog tag. Enjoy!